Have you seen a trend where you might run your first contest and it doesn't have maybe the greatest outcome, but the clients who have run them consistently for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times?
Yeah. Well, obviously contests, which we're going to talk about and do a little deep dive on today. But the question is, what do you compare that to? Right. And so you compare contests to obviously straight advertising. Google and Facebook are the 800-pound gorillas in that regard.
Basically just the front end sales channel. He developed a strategy because in his own business he wasn't profitable with the strategy.
Well, it's clearly working wonders for our clients, and it's crazy to me how many agencies don't know about this at all.
All right, e-commerce fans. Recently, we had a client who had 107,000 entries into a contest. It ended 14 days ago, and we managed it for a client, and it just crushed it. And if you're thinking about how to get leads, this is the episode for you. Welcome to the E-commerce Leader. We're going to talk all about it. Kyle's joining me to do a deep dive on this topic. So Kyle, you ready to jump into this one?
I am ready. This is an exciting topic. I love this one.
Yeah, I think we're both blown away by that outcome. Biggest contest outcome we've ever managed. 107,000 is insane. Entries, in the way we describe the terms, is different than entrants. So an entrant is one person and they could enter like 5 times or whatever, depending on how you rig up the contest. But it's still a huge number.
It's massive.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It was awesome.
So we're going to give context for this. We're going to share more detail about why we're so enthusiastic about this contest in particular and contests in general. And so that's sort of going to be the gist of this conversation. So if you're looking for more leads and you're hoping to figure out a way to fill your funnel, then this is the topic for you. Now, Kyle, I know you're passionate about this. We have a lot of clients who are coaching, clients and then people we manage their sites for, who have a hard time kind of thinking about building the top of funnel versus just, look at today's sales, look at today's revenue. And so there's a lot of work to be done to figure out how do you do your funnel and how do you attract new people at that top of funnel level. So what's your thought on all that? What's your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, after working with a bunch of clients, analyzing where their traffic is coming from, you kind of quickly see when something is working. It's almost like when you're pushing against and you're running into a wall head first, right? And you just kind of see this repeated action of trying to like push through. But what oftentimes is the focus is that the funnel that's set up, the offer isn't quite yet optimized for a successful cold traffic purchase that people are trying to, spend all their advertising dollars for. And when that's not working, one of the great ways to sort of go about that is to actually go up the funnel instead of going for the purchase. And what I mean by that is that you start looking for the lead, right? How do you put a lead into your business? And a lot of e-commerce operators kind of ignore leads, essentially, right? They may think of it as like a secondary thing.
Yeah, or they'll just try to find a different audience. Like, oh, these people aren't buying. Right. Find a different audience.
Switch, right?
Right. Yeah.
But it's really critical to put leads into your business. And the main reason why is it really goes back to this old marketing axiom from the 1930s, right? And it's the rule of 7. And it came out of this idea of movie studio bosses realizing that they had to talk about their upcoming movies at least 7 times before they saw like a bump in people attending their movies in the theater in the 1930s. And it translates into digital marketing and all advertising, the amount of times a potential customer needs to interact with your brand. And so when you think about it, if you're attracting a cold customer to your site, maybe they've seen you on social, maybe they've heard somebody talking about you, or maybe they found you through a Google search or something. But more often than not, they're not going to immediately click on an ad, go to your website and purchase. That's just not how buyer behavior operates, right? So what's going to happen is they're going to interact with you and they might end up on your site, but they probably are going to bounce, right? And you're going to see a conversion rate of people who go to your site and actually complete a purchase, right, probably around an average, like around the 2%. I've seen data that's even worse than that across all of Shopify. You know, it can be sub 2%, but if you're aiming for a 2% conversion rate as a whole across all of your traffic, that would be an okay metric to go after. And it's at 98% that kind of get left behind. And that's really where leads, I think, become an important piece of it. How do you close the gap between the 2% of people who are purchasing on average on your site and the other 98%? And can you engage them in any meaningful way?
Yeah, Shopify published new statistics. We do use frequently in our conversations, the 2% is sort of an average. But Shopify reported recently it's actually 1.4% is the average. So sites are on kind of down in terms of their ability to convert, which to your point means it's not, for many customers or prospective customers, it's not a no, it's just a not right now.
Right.
And so that's a really, really important thing to realize as the marketer, is they're not saying no, they're saying no, not right now. And so then therefore, what do? Right. And to your point, you bring them into your universe and put your message in front of them as many ways as possible. And that's really the and so the contest strategy sort of gets at methods for doing that. So.
For sure. So then that leads to the question, well, what's the best way to do it? So what are some of your favorite lead gen strategies?
Yeah. Well, obviously contests, which we're going to talk about and do a little deep dive on today. But, the question is, what do you compare that to? Right. And so you compare contests to, obviously, straight advertising. Google and Facebook are the 800-pound gorillas in that regard. Many people will try straight advertising to their product, and it just won't work. And so that's an obvious one. The other thing more popular these days is like challenges. Challenges have become really popular for the right types of niches in industries. A challenge can be super fun and engaging. It's low, I guess, stress, you might say, or just kind of fun. It creates like a gamification version of Jingle. So challenges are super cool. Of course, the classic that we've basically built our business on for the last 15 years is a free digital download. And so, a free ethical bribe, you could call it. We, started working on that idea in 2009. When we launched our first website, we had something like 4 paid digital downloaded items, so, sewing patterns, and like 2 that were free. And so the 2 were the ethical bribes. And it just, if nothing else, it taught people how to go through the checkout, like taught people, okay, this is how you do it. Right. And because of low risk, and there was no, concern related to them losing their money or something like that if they messed up. So that's one of the reasons why digital products is so good, because you reverse the, risk. So you take the risk. You give it away for free. And so now, like on Pixie Fair, I think there are probably 250 free digitally downloadable patterns. And they're good ones. I mean, that's good stuff. But the catalog's like 4,000. Right. So, it's not just like one thing in our marketplace. It's, it's a lot of that. So digital goods are high on the list. And you can do that in many, many different ways. Gated content, be done, for all different, you can rig it up in many different ways. You can have membership, you can have something that only gets distributed through your email list, on and on and on, many different versions of that. So I would say, the hot thing right now is challenges. Contests are not right now. Like made $1 billion teaching people how to do contests, which I guess maybe the universe is waiting for us to do that. But, it's one of those marketing ideas that isn't really that trendy and isn't really that camped on or taught, but it is a very, very good way to do it. So,
yeah, I love that. And there are a number of brands who run contests pretty faithfully. And if they're doing it faithfully, it's probably for a good reason, right? It's the fact that they're getting the actions that they're looking for out of it. And that's one of the cool things about contests. It's not a one-trick pony. You can kind of build it to serve whatever your outcome and goal is. And I think that's kind of cool. So let's jump into contests a little bit more. So what are sort of your high level goals or reasons for running a contest? You know, you mentioned a little bit, but can you deep dive into that a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah. Contests are fun. Period. Like that is one reason contests are fun, as opposed to a sales pitch or video where, you know, if you watch too many videos of product, sometimes you're like, this is funny and interesting, but after a while you're like, I'm just being manipulated to buy their thing, you know. Right. And if you, God forbid, get a webinar from somebody who's really good at webinars, at the end you're like, dang it, I'm buying this thing. I have to. And you know, that all of us are in that situation. But contests are just gamifying, you know, your interaction with people. If that's your first engagement with a prospective client, it's a good look. You know, it's like it's a fun way to engage people. So I think that's an important thing. The other things that I would say are really important is it's super low barrier to entry for people. You're not asking them to buy, you're asking them to enter your contest. And in exchange for a super awesome prize that they could win, you want them to do different things, including a whole list of things that are really valuable to your funnel, including sign up for your newsletter list, follow on YouTube, you know, check out your Instagram and Facebook accounts, you know, pin something on Pinterest. I mean, there's a million entry methods that you can rig up. Leave a blog comment. One of the ones we're running right for a client is one of the calls to actions is leave a blog comment. And I looked this morning, I think it's 195 comments on the blog. And it's really good stuff, because if you do it smartly, you ask the contest participants a thoughtful question, a meaningful question that other people would appreciate learning the answer to. So for example, in this case, I won't mention the specific details, but it's just in general, it's about a health related, you know, remedy, or, you know, actually it's not even health related so much, but it's in that vein, let's call it. And so the question that was asked was, what's your recommendation in this type of, you know, when you're trying to solve this problem? Leave your comment in the blog post below. And what you end up with is 195 very thoughtful and helpful comments that other people would really appreciate reading. So you create this killer content from random people who they haven't bought anything from you. They're just, you know, showing up to see what you got going, and yet engaging them to help you in your marketing really, really effectively. So for all of those reasons, I think contests are amazing. The only final comment is we've done the math on many contests that we've run. And if you add up all of the actions that you get, like joining your newsletter list would be considered one social action. Following you on YouTube or on Instagram or Facebook, each one of those would be a social action. So just imagine you stack all those up and you say, okay, I did this contest and I had, you know, 40,000 social actions. And then you just buy the cost of the contest. Like maybe you spent $100 on the prize and, you know, $500 marketing it. So you're into it for $600 or whatever. You do math. What you realize is that you have a method for getting insanely inexpensive cost per action. So if you want to build a big list, a big followership on social, all of those kinds of things, contests are really, really, really good too, for the affordability factor, you know, alone.
So just to summarize, if you were going to launch a contest tomorrow, you would pick a prize, hopefully one that matches your audience. You said a couple $100 range. Then you pick the actions that you want to take after they basically sign up to join the contest. And usually that's an email opt-in, and then they can watch a YouTube video or check out your Instagram profile. There's a whole, however creative you can be, right? Like you can stack those in and make it bonus entries with a chance to win. And then you spend a little advertising behind it, and then you get this really great outcome of multiple avenues, right? Multiple ways to interact with your potential customer that are being engaged. It's not just sign up for an email list. It's sign up for an email list and do all these other things. Plus, there's a referral component, right? Oftentimes to it, where
it can be.
They get yeah, they can potentially be incentivized to actually share it themselves, and so you kind of get a little bit of viral action off of it, which is a great outcome. That's super cool.
Yeah,
very cool. So
that works.
It sounds super easy. There's got to be some hard parts to it. What are some of the challenges in running contests?
Yeah, I would say there's two pieces that are super important. One piece is matching the prize to your ideal customer demographic. Like, if you give away a Corvette, for example, and you're like Barrett Jackson, muscle car auctioneers, you're like, that's a good idea. Right. If you give away a Corvette and you're selling like vitamins, that's like probably a really bad idea, unless they're vitamins for 50-year-old guys who maybe then it makes it a good idea. Yeah. So you have to think, who is my ideal customer, and what is a prize that would really, really attract them narrowly, to wanting to learn about my products and connect with me. So it's a real, sometimes you just nail the prize and like, oh dang, that was a good prize and everybody's joining and they're ideal prospects for your business. Other times people will come up with a prize and like, well, I don't know, it just might not be a good match. So that's one hard part. The second hard part is more technical, and that's actually how to rig it up, on your website. Simplest possible way to technically rig it up is just do a comment contest on your blog. Easy and no big deal. Now, I'll just add third little caveat is that contests are a legal thing in many states, or at least at the state level, there's generally state level policy that dictates what you can do and can't do. So a little bit of research is helpful to look into. That's why most contests, or whenever you see one, it will say no purchase necessary, void where prohibited, because states in state laws generally will say if you make a payment required to enter your contest, it's an illegal lottery. So, and they don't want illegal lotteries because they want their own legal lottery that they run and make the money from. So they're not letting you cut in on their action or anybody. And so no purchase necessary is one of the, it's one of the legalities of contests. And void where prohibited makes you sort of get out of jail free card. If you just basically say, look, if this is illegal where you're participating, then you can't participate. And there's, like a state or two that's specific, that just has a little bit of, they're grumpy about this stuff. And technically what that means is they want you to get a permit before you run a contest in their state. So people just, avoid those states. So I would say that's kind of the big three, the prize itself, the rigging it up just on your site, and then the understanding kind of the legalities of giveaway versus illegal lottery, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Very cool. So that's the hardest part. We talked a little bit about the downsides, but in your opinion, obviously the upsides, once you hook all this stuff up, outweighs any downsides if you're just following the rules and setting it up and doing what it needs to do. I guess my question would be like, have you seen a trend where you might run your first contest and it doesn't have maybe the greatest outcome, but the clients who have run them consistently for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times just kind of see better and better performance as they nail that down?
Yeah, it's a virtuous spiral, up, because what happens is, let's say you run your first contest and you don't have any email list, you don't have any to follow, and you spend a couple $100 on Facebook ads or something like that, and you end up with, let's just say 500 of everything, 500 newsletter subscribers, 500 Facebook fans, and 500 Instagram followers, and 500 Pinterest followers, whatever. Well, as soon as you do your second contest, you have a built audience of all those people. And so now you can not only launch it and still do your couple $100 on Facebook ads, you can promote it to the newsletter list, mention it to the Instagram people, to the Facebook people, put it on Pinterest, all that. So you really have the sort of opportunity to build a ever strengthening community that knows what you're doing, is interested in what you're doing, and is looking for the ride. So I think that's really, really why it's a justification for doing these, not just one time, but doing them, serially, and you'll build a bigger and bigger audience. And to your point early at the beginning of the conversation, it allows you to have these touch points where people are hearing about you, they're seeing your products. If you weave in some product emphasis or emphasis on, here's a coupon. Like a lot of times what we like to do is have people give a coupon away after their contest to the non-big winners so that everybody's a winner. That kind of thing. So it really allows you to build on an initial little bit of momentum and gain more and more as you go. So, yeah.
I love that. One of the things I think it's super interesting too is that once you get the contest rolling and you start to see success with it, you start to see things happening, people kind of get really addicted. They want to run more and more and more of them. But one of the things that's I've kind of noticed with looking at people who have run contests, not necessarily clients, but then they just kind of get the lead, but then ignore them. They don't really actually have a system to follow up and try to convert them, because leads are great, but you actually have to try and convert them into customers in the long term. So if you're not sending an email, newsletter, or you don't have an email welcome series automation set up, or you're not giving them like a discount code, like you said, or coupon code to try your product, that's where you have to close that gap. So it's a little bit more work. It's not like you go get the customer, they already buy, now they're your customer. You actually have to close that gap. But what you're trying to do is shorten the distance, essentially, right? In that gap, by having really cool touch points, by offering a cool contest, by getting people engaged on your socials, following you on your email list. And that's hopefully closing the gap, and you've done a good job with your prize to attract the ideal customer. And then you can end up closing.
Yeah, totally right. And, that biggest mystery of doing contests is, are you attracting people who are going to be legitimate future buyers? That's the thing that's difficult to weed out, is like, are they prize seekers, freebie seekers, or are they going to convert to actually, purchase something from you? So you might end up with more leads through contests, but fewer as a percentage of those people will convert, compared to maybe if you spend money on Facebook ads that are super insanely targeted, and you're using really sophisticated Facebook ads where you're targeting buying people, people who have a penchant for clicking through the website and fulfilling the transaction, because Facebook can give you that kind of targeting. So with a contest, you don't know. You're just like, well, they like this prize and they're willing to come to our site and answer questions. Will they convert to buyers is the big mystery of it. So if there's any question that's outstanding as people go into this, that's one of those. But the way I like to sort of, describe it is like, look, all of us have a lot of different marketing channels and strategies we can employ. And the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different outcome. And there are a lot of people who, for example, tried Facebook ads and they haven't worked. Then they watch a different webinar from a different dude. And then they, guess what? Try Facebook ads again. And guess what? It doesn't work. And they, you get in these like rinse and repeat cycles sometimes with marketing strategies. And so I would just say to anybody who feels like, okay, I've tried a lot of things, I'm not sure, I found something that works yet, and you have never tried a contest, try a contest. And we have a whole training course on these in my Udemy collection, social contests. And so you can that course for whatever Udemy is offering it at, I think $14 or something like that. But there's, it goes deep into all the nuance. It really helps set up your contest, because there are a lot of other details, tools to use and that kind of thing. So,
yeah, I would say that the mistake is if you're using 100% of your advertising budget on just to try and close a sale, or even to get a second or third sale, and not getting leads as part of your advertising, you're kind of missing an opportunity. The other thing I would mention is if you are using Facebook ads or you used them in the past, you may be familiar with like a lookalike audience, right? So you could actually, as a strategy, take your purchasers, the list of your buyers, and if they're in Facebook and you already have created that, build a lookalike audience, which is pretty popular. It's like a lot of people do that for cold traffic, trying to close people. But if it's not really getting you at the KPIs you need, instead of trying to run purchase campaigns to those lookalike audiences, try a contest, because you already know that Facebook's going to go out and try and find similar people who are your buyers. So use the same sort of targeting that you would when you're trying to sell your product. Just offer a prize that would be interesting and compelling to them, and then use that same targeting and see what kind of outcome you get.
Good tip. Yeah, that's really, really good. The only other thing I just mentioned before we wrap up is, the tools available to you are many. And so just to mention a few strategies. So as I mentioned already, the simplest possible contest you can do is just a blog comment contest, because it doesn't take any extra special tools. But if you want to use more sophisticated tools, then there are a bunch out there. We've used quite a few as we've run contests for clients. And so Viper is one that we've used quite a bit. You can help me rattle off the list here. And Wishpond is another that works well. The one that I tend to like, that I use, and we've used it for like over 10 years, is Rafflecopter. And Rafflecopter is not the most beautiful interface, although you can build it into a landing page and make it look pretty good, pretty nice. But it has some technical elements of it that just work really well. And I've liked that one for a long time, and kind of always go back to it even after we've tried different fancier contest tools. But that's important to think through. But again, I mean, if you're just starting out, a blog comment contest is straightforward. So,
and you could even have a social. Hey, I have this post. Just leave a comment on my Facebook post or whatever. There's some rules you have to be mindful of with that, so you got to kind of look into that a little bit. But simple is good. But there are tools, and I would say the biggest benefit of using a tool like Rafflecopter is for the social sharing component, right? Like you get people to share it out. They're pushing it out there, and it sort of amplifies your own advertising spend, and you get a percentage of entrants sort of doing that marketing work for you. And I think that's a really nice component.
Yeah, totally. Well, if you'd like to talk to us more about how to do this strategy specifically, or have us even just do it for you, we're happy to have a conversation. You can connect with us on OmniRocket.com. And there's a contact form there where you can book a free 30-minute conversation with us. Happy to have you do that. Love to talk about your Shopify site with you and how contests or other marketing strategies might be effectively employed, and walk you through a little bit of that. So we really, really appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. This is our second episode in season 5, and it was a good one. So thanks, Kyle. Any final thoughts or comments?
If you haven't run a contest, try it. If you have run a contest and it's not working the way you want, reach out to us.
Yeah. Good one. All right, buddy. Good times. I'm going to end it there. And
all right.
We'll see everybody in the next episode. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.